Hey, dear Mark, what have you got for us today?
All right. How are you doing, Cam? You okay?
Yeah,
Hope
yeah,
all our
I'm good.
listeners are good as well. Yeah, we've got a few things to talk about today, haven't we? Yeah, we've got some great news for Canon mirrorless users. We've got some good some good strengthening on SD cards. We also want to discuss what makes a photo. But first, we've got some good news in Japan, haven't we?
Yeah, we have actually, and it's to do with the camera market in that it's grown for the first time in 13 years in Japan. Because it's been in decline since 2010. So I think that's good news. I think part of the story really has got to do with do you remember the microchip, the shortage of microchip
Yes.
supply issues after COVID? I think
Yeah.
that,
Well, it was
I mean, that,
during COVID and after COVID, wasn't it? It was,
hmm,
yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think there was a shortage for everything, wasn't there, for all electronic products? So this might have something to do with it. But I picked this up from Digital Camera World. I always like to sort of give a shout out to where we see news stories and
Mhm.
where things come directly to us. Sometimes we research stuff. And so I'm going to read little bits of the article directly, so we sort of get it right. And it was published by the Japanese financial newspaper Nikkei Shimbun,
Mhm.
and the newspaper reports that the country's digital camera market is in the green for the first time in over a decade. And with new flagship releases from Nikon, Sony, and Fujifilm, to Japan's domestic digital camera market has slowly recovered after the pandemic. And research from Tokyo firm GFK Japan shows that this is now on the upswing. And
Okay.
so there's been a general 7% increase, which I
Oh, that's
think
good.
is pretty promising.
That's good news because it was looking a bit ropey when Nikon left Japan
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff. It's good news, and
yeah,
yeah, good to see that
yeah.
the technology in that area is on the up.
Yeah. And they also go on to say that compact cameras grew by 6%.
Really?
And it says also, yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, but this thing is, Mark, there's a whole world of sort of hobbyists, amateur photographers, just your general people that just want to buy a camera. And I guess a lot of them
Yeah, I
immediately will
guess.
go for, I was going to say something compact. Yeah.
Yeah,
So a compact
got
camera,
my camera.
something small. Hmm.
Yeah, you often think that phones just take over from that, don't you?
Yeah.
I've always
Yeah.
thought that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a compact camera anymore because I've got my phone, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, well,
Exactly.
excellent stuff, excellent
Yeah,
stuff.
it surprises me actually because I do find compact cameras quite fiddly to use. Actually, trying to get into their menu system if you really want to use it. But I have a feeling that a lot of compact camera users just put it into auto and don't really fiddle about with it, which is not really the point of those compact cameras. As compact cameras do have a lot of features in built in, but also it goes on to say that the sales increase is, and it sounds quite obvious when you hear it, is also increased because of the demand in travel. We're back travel, after the
Yep.
pandemic, so and leisure and all of that, and
Mm,
it's all going to increase it. And a lot of people who had these cameras during COVID, or had time during COVID, had time to get out their cameras that they hadn't used for ages, got back
mm,
into taking pictures, got back
mm,
into it, and thought, oh, this is great and whatever, and then suddenly start to look a little bit more at what's out there, what's new and stuff.
mm,
And so I think there's been a lot of reasons for that as well. But also, it's not just the cameras that have seen that increase as well. That upturn. Interchangeable lenses also grew by 4%, and Sigma of with providing and more affordable lenses as well than maybe say Nikon or Canon. Their sales increase went up as well. So I think
mm.
it's a good news story to start off with, isn't it?
Excellent. Well, that probably leads us straight on to our next thing that we want to talk about. You
It
mentioned
does.
Sigma there. And we said we got some great news for Canon mirrorless users, and it is the fact that Canon have now given the green light to third-party lens manufacturers such as Sigma and Tamron to produce their sorry, not EF, RF lenses. I knew I was going to say the wrong amount
That's
there.
right. Yeah, but Mark, that which is great news. However, it is for their APS-C um, cameras.
Oh,
That's
is
really what
it?
it's for. It is. Yes. Okay.
Ah,
So
I see. Serves me
when you
right
sort
for
of
just reading the headlines, doesn't it?
well, actually, that was a good that was glad you sort of said it like that because it says Sigma has announced that it will release Canon RF mount options to six of its APS-C contemporary lenses.
Okay.
Okay, so it doesn't seem as if it's going to the full mirrorless range, which is a shame.
Mm.
But I think it's going to come. I think
It will
Canon,
come. Yeah.
it has to come, and so that is good news because Sigma is some of the best lenses that you can get, and they are sort of they're very very sort of competitive for price, and a lot of
Mm.
people do buy them because of the price difference, and between buying a native lens, like a Nikon lens for a Nikon camera or a Canon lens for a Canon camera. So people do like Tamron, and they do like Sigma because I think they're the two of the makes, unless I'm mistaken, to have been around the longest, or the two most obvious makes, aren't
They
they?
are the two
Aren't they?
obvious ones. So yeah, Tamron and Sigma. I mean, Tokina as well. That's
Oh,
another.
Tokina's another
Yeah,
one. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah. So it goes on to
Um,
say that. Yeah, it goes on to say that the news that Canon is slowly opening up. Yeah, and let's say slowly
yeah.
opening up the RF mount to other AF lenses will be exciting to Canon users as it provides more price points and creative options. And Tamron has also just released a statement announcing the new development of an RF lens, which will also be for the APS-C range of cameras as well. It says there's no news as to whether the license agreement between the lens manufacturers and Canon is limited to APS-C, which may be the case, or it may be that already established APS-C lenses are the quickest to add mount options. So it looks like we're getting those first for the APS-C, but it's a step in the right direction, and let's applaud Canon for that. Okay,
Mm.
albeit a little bit slow.
Well, I guess in some respects as well, I guess it makes sense as far as the target market's concerned. I'd imagine there are more people out there that have the APS-C mounts than the full frame mounts, I guess. I know us as professionals, we're always on about full frame and all that kind of because of what we do. But that's because it's our job. There are more people, I reckon, who own a camera than there are professionals out there. So I'd imagine actually monetary wise. Because also the casual user wouldn't necessarily want to spend that extra £1,000 on a lens like us professionals would. So actually, when you think about it as a marketing strategy or a business strategy, it makes complete sense because you got the most users with APS-C, I'd imagine. I mean, I don't have any stats for that, by the way. I'm just sort of guessing. But also they're the people with the APS-C cameras who wouldn't necessarily want to spend the premium price that you would for a Canon lens.
Well, exactly. That's right. Yeah, and when people are price conscious, and that they want to still get the focal length of the lens they need and the aperture that they need, Sigma is a great option. I think I've spoken to some people say, "Oh no, I'd always buy a Canon lens, always buy a Nikon." Oh, you don't want, no, I feel confident with it. But honestly, the Sigma lenses are so good, and Tamron as well. I've got experience with Sigma lenses, not Tamron firsthand. I had a great Sigma lens for Nikon D750 when I was using that,
Mm.
and that was such a good lens, and I loved that lens.
I'd
And
be
it
interesting
was
to see how well they focus in comparison to your RF lens, because I mean your RF lens outdoes my EF lens when it comes to focusing. So I'd be interested to see how Sigma or the Tamron lenses sort of compare in the
it
speed. It'd be interesting
it
to see.
Yeah, it will be. I actually think that they're going to be the equivalent of Canon. I think they will be. I think they will be just as good.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure because, especially with Canon lenses, I mean, because they notoriously had their motor in the lens
Mm.
rather than in the body. So um, I always, their USM motor. I mean, it's always seems to be the fastest one out there, and I
Yeah,
never seem to remember Sigma having that USM technology in their lenses. This was back in the day when I was at Jessup, so we're talking 20 years ago. Um,
yeah,
I'm not as up with my tech as I used to be because of that. But
yeah,
they weren't as fast from what I
yeah,
could tell, and I'd
yeah,
be interested to see if that's going to be the case now.
yeah. I think they will, which is purely because of the quality of the lens. So great news from Canon.
Mm.
Now, Mark, another story that we've got, I think, is going to be of interest to pretty much every camera user, and that's for those cameras that have got SD cards
Yes. Well, my
because
cameras have SD cards, so I'm
okay.
interested. What's your news, Cam?
Okay, well, so let's go with let's just talk about the other cards for a moment. So Nikon have their XQD cards, and I believe Canon have their, is it CF Flash or something like that? They're slightly thicker. They're equivalent to XQD.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, my
Yeah,
cameras are both Canon, so the R6 is both SD, so it's dual
yeah.
SD, which is marvelous. My Mark III, I'm still using a Mark III, is compact flash and SD, and I think the Mark IV is compact flash
That's right.
and
Yeah. So I
SD.
just remember what it is. So Canon have their CF Express cards, which is the
Ah,
equivalent to the XQD cards. Now, I remember when I had, I think it was a Nikon D4S, and when I went to buy that, I was shocked that this was the first time I'd heard of an XQD card. That it was a different type of card. I thought, oh, okay, no, great. Until I heard the price. I mean, the price point was ridiculous, and
yeah,
they still are as well. XQD
yeah.
cards are so expensive, and I think there's CF Express for Canons are as well. Now, a lot of people say, yeah, but those cards have a huge benefit. You know, they're almost indestructible. They're great in low light. They're weatherproof and all of that. And I'll say, yeah, that's all well and good, but they're not loss proof, are they? You know, what if you
No,
lose a card? Okay, so and that's always my main point. You know, and I think SD cards are pretty good. I think they're pretty hard wearing. I've not got any experience in sort of freezing conditions or anything like that, but
no.
I've never had a problem with an SD card.
Well, actually,
However,
can I just say I have
hmm,
had problems with SD cards.
okay, now I
Um,
did say however. So what problem have
ah,
you had with SD cards?
So the problem I've had with SD cards is getting them out of their case. So I've got this case. I'm not sure if it's an SD card problem or a case problem, but
Mm,
they seem to be so jammed in there. Getting them out sometimes is so difficult. I've actually accidentally pulled apart a card rather than getting it out.
mm,
Now I have noticed as a colleague that we both know who's put little felt strips underneath it so you can just pull it, which I think is a brilliant idea. And I've always been meaning to get on with that, like a ribbon, so it's
mm.
underneath the card and you just flick that. But yeah, you got this really safe, secure card holder, card case, but the cards fall apart when you try and take them out.
Yeah, and I've had that problem as well because they are very flimsy, and you've got to be careful getting
Yeah,
your fingers on the little, the gold contacts as well,
yeah,
because you do have to treat um, any type of memory card with care.
yeah.
And I do see people, I work in an environment where, occasionally, I'm working with a lot of photographers sometimes, and they just sort of take their SD cards out, put them on a table, and they're just left there. And I don't think we should do that. I think your memory card should be treated with care and respect. For me personally, what I do is I will take out an SD card out of my camera, put it into my reader, download it, take it out, put it straight back into the camera or into the case. I will very, very rarely leave an SD card on a table. And if I do, I'll probably get a piece of paper and put it on a piece of paper. So it's just sitting there. I'm probably over careful with it, but
Mm.
I don't think you can be over careful with it. Because
Well, yeah,
because they are flimsy. I have had problems, not many, well, a couple of times maybe, where I have pulled it out of a camera and it's got stuck a little bit, and I've seen that the gold contacts, the little gold bits, have started to come off.
yeah, I've
So
seen
I've
that.
had that problem as well. Now,
Yeah.
the good news is that Lexar are looking to release some new rugged SD cards.
Okay.
Okay. And it says it's the perfect memory card for shooting in extreme environments. Yeah. Dot, dot, dot. Or if you're just clumsy. Okay. Now, when it comes to shooting in extreme environments, it wouldn't really bother me. I generally don't shoot in extreme environments. And probably most SD cards, if I do go to an extreme environment, will probably be okay. However, I can be clumsy, and I think we can all be clumsy.
Yeah.
And I think this is where the rugged SD card probably comes in. So they announced at there was the NAB 2024 show in Las Vegas. NAB, I think it's a National Association of Broadcasters. It's a big show in Vegas that happened in April, and they announced a new rugged series of SD cards which are available in two speed classes. They've called them the Armor Gold, okay, which is quite
Ooh,
cool, and the Armor
armor gold.
Silver. Okay, the
Ooh.
gold and the silver, and it says they're unusual in the SD sector. And I'm not quite sure as they boast an IP68 ingress protection rating. Now I don't really know
Okay.
what that means, but somebody
No.
out there will. But it does say this
It's a lot
means
of
they.
important words to make you think that this card is indestructible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it says this means the cards are sealed against dust and protected against continuous immersion in water. Continuous immersion
Okay.
in water. Okay, most people aren't going to use it, but yeah, if you have got underwater stuff and anything, protected against dust. And I think that's where all photographers that are listening to this, if you use SD cards, do be careful with them. It says, given an SD card still has to conform to strict external dimensions, Lexar must have got quite creative when designing the necessary seals to protect the card's internals. Because my immediate thought would be, if it's a rugged card, it's going to
Going
be
to be bigger.
thicker.
Yeah.
It's going to be thicker.
Mm.
So however they've done it, they've got to be very, very clever with this. And it says that their card should still be fast enough to support 6K video capture, which, to be honest with you, is going to be more than enough. They haven't revealed prices yet, and they probably won't be available until about the third quarter, so a little bit later in the year, in 2024. But also, in addition to that, with these rugged SD cards, and I will certainly be looking at those. They've also releasing a new docking station. It's just targeted at professional users. It's called the Lexar Professional Pro Workflow, and it's a 6-bay dock designed to take various different modules, including modules for CF Express cards, SD, micro SD, and portable SSDs. One thing is quite interesting there. They haven't put the XQD cards in, unless the CF Express and the XQD cards are exactly the same.
Do you know what? I've never actually seen any of these cards because I've just never bothered with them. No, so I don't know if they're the same dimensions, if they work the same way. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm going to find out. That'd be quite interesting. Is a CF Express card? Is it the same sort of dock? Is it the same size? Are CF Express cards the same size as XQD cards? Please, somebody out there, just drop us a message and let us know.
So XQD, I mean, you've held an XQD card, I'm assuming.
I had one. I used it for it probably for about a year.
So is that the same shape and size as a compact flash card?
Yeah, it's just slightly thicker. It's a bit little bit narrower, maybe. It's not far off. I think it's a little bit narrower.
They're a bit like those old. Oh, I forgot what they were called now. They were like they were little drives. They were the size of a CF card.
Yeah, no,
do you remember those?
Yeah, I do remember those.
What were they called?
I can't remember what they were called because I think I had one in the Fuji S2 that I owned.
Yeah, I definitely had one
years ago.
But they were like tiny little drives. There's all moving parts in there, wasn't it? So
that's right. Yeah, no,
microdrive or something.
Yes, it was microdrive. Yeah, well remembered. So no, but the XQD cards and the CF Express cards, I think they're a little bit narrower, but they're a bit thicker. One thing though, they do work very, very fast. I must say they are very, very good. But I think a lot of people are shocked by the price point of those as well. But I will say actually that that if you've got a camera that shoots dual cards, always use both card slots. I came across some students this week actually who had dual card slots but only had one camera, but we're only using one card. And I said, you should be backing everything up that you shoot. That's something for everybody. Make sure you use that second card. And I know that if you've got an XQD card or a CF Express card slot, it's going to be blooming expensive. But I would liken it like this, okay? That if you don't back up let's just say a XQD card is £100, and you think, oh, I'm not spending £100 when I can go and get an SD card for, I don't know, 15 quid or something. Think about the value of the shots, because if you lose that SD card, or it becomes corrupt, or you damage the gold contacts or whatever, and you lose all your shots, think to yourself, are those shots on that card, would they have been worth more than the value of an XQD card? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Think about the value of the photos that you're taking, and if it justifies the cost of buying that second camera card.
Oh, we've always been staunch. We've always advocated having both cards used in the camera so you can back up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if there are any professionals out there that have dual card slots and they're going out on shoots and shooting with one memory card, then I'd need to bang my head against the brick wall, to be honest with you, because that's just the most, I'm going to say it's the most amateurish thing that you can do as a professional.
Yeah, sorry, but to be fair to those students, they are amateurs, so I'm
talking about professionals. Professional photographers. Yeah, any professionals out there, and then the most amateurish thing that you can do is to shoot with one card.
Yeah,
I'm
agreed.
going to put it out there. I'm going to put it
Agreed.
a bit big, So anyway, Mark, on that note, once we have a price point of those cards, we will put it out. But on that note,
Yeah,
let's grab a drink.
absolutely. Right then. So this is something that I kind of looked and saw on the internet, and yeah, it was just talking about what makes photo a photo, really. And the reason I say that is because also we have the rise of AI. Obviously, there was that big story with the Princess of Wales and the photo that was pulled because it was manipulated by the looks of it from different types of photos. I also read about camera phones when taking pictures of the moon. And what these cameras have been doing, they've been taking a picture of the moon, but they've been using AI to add detail to the moon that weren't there originally. So that wasn't actually in the original picture. So did you then take that photo? And there's a whole load of other things that we've seen with AI and what makes a photo actually real, I guess. And we
Hmm.
spoke about editing and things like that last week, didn't we? Regarding, and I know you're a big supporter of having, shooting in camera and you said you don't edit that much and all that kind of stuff. Don't make the sky
Keep it real.
green or yeah, keeping it real.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Are we now in a position where keeping it real is getting increasingly more difficult when cameras are doing things that you're not necessarily asking them to do?
Oh, definitely. It is, of course, becoming increasingly because it's there at a touch of a button,
Yeah.
and we all like to. Let's talk about phones. We've
Mm,
all got our phones in our hands all day, every day. And when you go into Instagram and you see the filters, something just playing about with them, that type of thing, it's because it's been made so easy, Mark.
mm.
And that's why it's just there in front of us. It's screaming to be used.
Yeah, absolutely. And having those tools and the kind of trickery that is there automatically now. It's. I mean, I suppose we always had auto functions on our cameras, even back in the film days. You had automatic that sorted out your aperture and your shutter speed for you, depending on the light available. But now it's going into adding things that weren't there. So it was a couple. I think that the Samsung Gallery the Samsung Galaxy phones were were
Yeah.
were particularly mentioned in an article that I was reading, and also I think Google have this sort of space zoom function on theirs, and when you're using that, it does add detail to things. And yeah, I'm just thinking, how is it now that we cannot believe what documentary photographers are showing us these days? And not necessarily because of posts, but because of the machines doing things themselves. Especially when you see things like with Reuters and news, it's getting increasingly difficult. Fake news as another reason why this is even more dangerous than maybe people are thinking about.
That's right. Yeah. And I guess that, I mean, if an image is published somewhere, do you think maybe in the future there should be maybe a tiny little dot somewhere, a tiny little star in every single image that's released, wherever it is, that's had, say, AI, whether any part of that image has been produced by AI? Okay, so
Mm,
everyone knows, it just becomes a standard. Bottom right hand corner, a tiny little white star or something that just indicates that this has had AI to it. It's not quite real. Now, it does make it difficult. Now, there's a difference between that. What I'm saying is marking it for AI and marking it for image editing, because
mm,
image editing has always happened from the first photo that was ever taken. Okay, there's always going to, you process your negatives. You could push process negatives. So in other words, you're already starting to edit your images. You're going to print your negatives, and then you would print the negatives in the way, say black and white. You could change the
mm,
contrast, your different contrast of papers, color. You change the color and the contrast of an image. So you're always editing. So putting a little mark to say an image has been edited is very different to saying an image has got AI to it.
mm. Well, I
Okay.
suppose there's a
Um,
third, there's an in between, isn't there? There's edited, there's manipulated, and then AI, I guess.
yeah. Now, going back to something that I sort of advocate is keeping it real. I when I say keep it real, I'm certainly good and open minded completely with experimentation and finding out what can be done and where
Mm,
technology's got to, because as photographers we're all a little bit geeky, we love all those things. So I am very interested in seeing what AI does, what can we do with filters on Instagram and all of that,
mm,
because it's just part of the fun
yeah.
and thing, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just that I think where how far we take it when we publish images, I guess is more the thing. When you see images in papers, magazines, ads, I think that's where I think that certain things can be sort of where we have to keep things just that little bit more real.
Mm,
Does it make it more creative? Is it art? That's another thing.
mm.
Of course, it's making it more creative, because we can now, with AI, we can think of something in our minds, and we could probably replicate that you know uh,
Yeah.
in picture form.
Yeah, I mean, again, this the what AI is doing, and I think again we mentioned this last week, didn't we? I mentioned it with the Instagram filters that like this sort of thing's been around for ages. It's becoming easier to do. It's becoming more accessible to do to Mr. and Mrs. Joe Public.
Mm.
It's not the sort of thing that only professionals can now use. Um, and I think that does make things increasingly more difficult. I think there should be a way of knowing if things are, I don't know, manipulated, edited in a certain way, especially when it comes to news, which is why I thought it was so important that the Kate Middleton picture got pulled, because it was a fake picture. And I know there's difference of opinion of it. Was it, did the media overblow it? And they probably did to an extent. There's a lot of people, it's the royal family, it's always going to get overblown. But the fact of the matter is, it was a picture of, hey, everything's okay here, when it wasn't. And actually putting that stuff out in the media, that's fake news, I'm afraid, and it's dangerous. And I didn't agree with all the flack Princess of Wales was getting at the time, especially considering now what we know. Um, but nevertheless, it was a dangerous thing to do, and you suddenly start questioning. Well, hang on a minute, what other pictures of the palace sort of released that might not be accurate? And they've been
Yeah,
in the news quite a bit, and that's not just the palace; it's anything. It's anything to do with politics, anything to do with governments, anything to do with on the international stage. What's going on with Gaza? I mean, I know someone who doesn't believe that the war in the war in Ukraine is real.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
the only reason why people start believing such conspiracy theories is because of fake news that's out there. You have to double guess things. So that's why I think you really need to start looking into things with a real critical eye. And that's why I thought, it was a bit of a bad move on that on the Princess of Wales picture, really, because that adds to that fake newsery. Fake
yeah. It
newsery,
does.
is that
Yeah,
a
yeah.
phrase? Fake
Yeah,
newsery. I don't know.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that is a good way of putting it, because I was just I dismissed it. I just thought, well, so it's had a bit of editing. Who cares? Every
Yeah.
image has a bit of editing, you know. But yeah, when you look at it like that, I guess that there was a response. She probably had more of a responsibility than anybody else to keep it
Yeah.
real in that
Yeah.
situation. So,
I mean, I've
and I
swapped
think
faces so many times professionally, for family photographs, but that's not newsworthy. And I think that's where the line is drawn.
That's it. And coming back to AI, at the end of the day, we talk about AI, but it is down to humans, really, because we can still adjust the algorithms that AI produces. We're the ones that are inputting all of that information in. So we do have some control over it. We are blaming it too much on, oh, it's AI, it's not real, it's not real. It's humans that they're the ones that we're the ones that are responsible for not making it real.
Mm.
And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's
Which has
like
always been the case. Always been the
yeah,
case, though, hasn't it? With
yeah,
photograph technology.
exactly, that's right. Yeah. So um I guess it's I guess it's a case of feel free to experiment, as far as I'm concerned,
Mm.
see what it can do and everything, but just
Mm.
enjoy the experimentation type of it, but don't let it replicate what is actually real, what should be kept real, particularly if it's newsworthy.
Mm.
That's what I think. And like, if I was to go to a photography exhibition, I'd like to know that what I'm going to see it involves a lot of AI or it involves a lot of editing, or whether I'm going to an exhibition that is actually real. It'd be interesting
Mm.
to see what places like the National Portrait Gallery in London, how they incorporate things like this,
Mm.
because they should embrace it. Places like that, because it's it's moving forward. We went from glass plates to negatives to transparencies to the digital
Yeah.
image to the AI image. It's all
Yeah.
progression. It's
Well, it
it is
is.
all progression. So embrace it, but embrace it with honesty, respect, and some sort of social responsibility, I would say.
But sort of, yeah, it's interesting because also questioning what it's kind of moving on what our perceptions are of an image, what of a photograph. I mean, just to put it into another context, I think we went to an exhibition. It was a couple of years ago now, wasn't it, Cam? And it was a friend of ours and who sadly died, and he took a lot of pictures of planes and things, and his
Mm,
widow was selling the pictures off, which was a lovely thing. But I think it was his son, wasn't it, was there, and he'd actually was selling pictures that were taken
mm.
from a video game.
That's right. Yeah, and remarkable pictures as well.
Remarkable pictures, but and they've been sold. And I've got video games where you could take a picture of anything. There's camera mode on this video game, right?
Mm,
And what everything you can do, you can take a picture of. So I'm on some planet on some sci-fi game, and I've taken a picture of it. Now, it's not real. None of it is real. It's all manufactured. It's not really a photo. It's just the game taking a still of another part of the game. I mean, it's incredible. But yet there is. I mean, it's not the first time I've heard about this. That people are, they take a picture within a game. It suddenly becomes their work. I mean, does it become their work? I don't know.
yeah, that's a difficult thing because everyone's going to have a different opinion on this, aren't they?
Yeah.
And there isn't a well, it's right or wrong. It's everyone's opinions, and are we looking at something? How real is it? How
Mm.
real is what we're actually looking at? And that's where the concern is, and that's where we need to be careful. And but the more you look at things now, I know that I know with AI you can sort of say, you can type in, create me a photo of like a cat up in the sky or something.
Yeah.
And it comes up with these weird, wonderful things based very much on paintings. But I'd like to
Mm.
see where a lot of the images aren't quite real at the moment, are they? They're very art based, shall we say? So we know
They
that
are.
they're clearly faked. Okay, with that, those are
Mm.
obvious. But where is a picture where it's going to get to the point where we're not going to be able to tell? I'll be able to type anything in it, or give me a picture, and that picture will not be real at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw something on telly. I think it was last week. It was a news report about um, they basically put up these three pictures of these Miss World contestants, right? I
Mm,
think it was Miss World, or it was some sort of competition like that. And the question was, what do you think about these women? And they're
mm,
all stereotypically gorgeous. You know what I mean? That was what they were. If you think
yeah,
about what I mean, yeah, it's society's idea what beauty is.
yeah.
And it turned out they were all AI generated. All three of them. All three of these pictures are AI generated. And there's going to be a competition,
Mm.
like a Miss World competition, but all the entries are going to be AI.
Do you know what? I'd actually find that quite interesting,
I
just to
mean,
watch, just for the hell of
yeah,
it, just for the hell of it.
it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
And again,
Okay,
that's also quite a disturbing thing, I thought, because
it is.
it's one person's idea of what makes a beautiful woman. I mean, this is just has to be this happened to be a Miss World. You could do this about fellas as well. What makes
Of
a
course.
handsome guy?
Yeah.
But there's just everyone's different, and it's kind of almost force feeding you. This is what you should find attractive. This is what you should find beautiful, and it's
Yeah. The worry there is that there are going to be people that are going to watch that and think these people are real, or they'll know that it's
mm,
AI, but they'll be so convinced mentally, they'll think, I want to look like that. That's what I want to
yeah,
look like. And that's where that and you see, I was just saying I would watch that just purely out of a tech geek type of thing.
yeah.
However, then at the same time, should it be allowed? Because is it socially responsible? I
Well,
don't
this
think it
is
is
my
socially.
question.
It's
Yeah.
not so it wouldn't be socially responsible to do it because there are going to be millions of people that are going to watch it,
Mm.
and they will feel under pressure to look like that. That's what they'll do.
And it's a benchmark. People will be putting up normal
Mm,
women and in this case, and they'll be sort of holding these AI women as a benchmark of some description, and it's
of course they will.
unobtainable. It's
Yeah,
unobtainable because they're not real,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's right. And then somebody will come out and say, okay, well, we're going to, this is an AI Miss World for overweight women or something, right?
Yeah,
And I'm trying to be respectful here.
yeah.
If anyone says anything, okay.
Or overweight blokes,
Um,
shall we say?
yeah, let's say overweight blokes. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's balance it out. Okay, there'll be a Mr. World, Mr.
yeah,
Overweight World. Do you see what I mean?
yeah,
Because they're going to be saying, "Oh no, well we're being socially responsible. We're taking everyone into
yeah.
consideration." Okay, and they're almost saying that and then by doing that, they're almost sort of saying, "Well, being overweight is actually good, right?" Where it from a health point of view and from longevity, it's not good, right? So, but they're
It's
trying to
not.
balance it. They're
Yeah,
trying to balance it out, but they're also being socially irresponsible as well. So, I think you speak to different people. We're all going to have different opinions,
yeah,
So on
yeah.
this,
But it's hard, and the genie's out of the bottle, and AI is only going to go one way. I think it's just up to us to be responsible with it. Really look into pictures. Make sure before you comment on Twitter, look into it, see what's going on. I've said this before. I think it was a couple of months ago, wasn't it? It's because this stuff is out there. It's up to us now to be responsible with it. Unfortunately, not everyone will be. And unfortunately, some people will use it in ways that is really unscrupulous. Let's put it that way. That's a long word for me, isn't it? But yeah, we just
yep,
got to be so careful. But then on the flip side, don't lose trust in stuff. The war in Ukraine is going on. That there's lots of evidence to back that up. And yeah, you've just got to be you just got to question, but question it respectfully, question it right. Do you know what I mean? You don't
right,
go
yeah,
too far into conspiracy rabbit hole either.
exactly. That's right. Yeah, and is this all progress? Because for some people, it's hard to accept progress.
Mm,
And are we progressing with this? Yes, we are. Yes, we are progressing, but as we were sort of saying, we have to keep it morally and socially acceptable. So, but yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's definitely something that we've all got our own opinions on, and I think it's an ever evolving story as well because we're always
We'll be
going to keep seeing
returning to
stuff like
this.
this. We will be returning to this
Yeah.
as well, but it'd be really interesting to see what you guys and everyone else sort of thinks, and even if you don't send us a message or just or put it out there, just have a think to yourself, because these these stories will make you also think as a photographer as well, and what you should be doing and how far to take things. But good stuff. Okay, Mark, let's wrap it up there.
Yes, absolutely.
Just give a shout out to our patrons, Cole Sherville, Amina Zainab. I haven't
Rob
got the list in
Percy,
front of me there.
Rob
Yeah,
Percy,
yeah,
and
Rob
Nick
Percy.
Payne. It's
Nick Payne,
between
that's
the
right,
two of
yeah.
us, we remember all the names, so it's all good.
That's right, yeah. Guys, thank you for
But we do
listening.
appreciate it, though, guys. Please, this is because of rubbish with names. Don't think we don't appreciate it because we really, really do. So thank you ever so much for
That's
your
yeah.
ongoing support.
Exactly. We managed to, in amongst our schedule, which gets busier and busier, we do manage to
Yeah.
put this podcast out, and it is difficult, isn't it, Mark, to find the time to do this?
It
It
is.
really,
Yes, yes, it
yeah.
is. It is.
And
But
there's times when we do really struggle to get it out there, but we want to keep putting content out there because we know we get really good messages, private messages from you guys saying, we really
yeah,
enjoy listening to you guys. We're a bit of company for you as well. So
yeah.
yeah, good stuff. Thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye
Cheers.
for now, guys.